In 1964, a team of archaeologists lowered buckets into an ancient well near the ruins of Sparta. What came up wasn't pottery. It wasn't coins. It was bones. Tiny bones, infant skulls, fragile ribs, spines no longer than your finger. Some of those babies had only lived a few days. Mixed in with them were adult remains, men and women who had lived full lives before ending up in the same dark shaft. For generations, we've been told a simple story. Sparta threw its weak newborns into a pit called the apathetai, survival of the fittest. Brutal, efficient, legendary. But those bones raised a different question. If this was just about weak babies, why were grown adults down there too? What kind of society disposes of its newborns and its citizens in the same place? And more importantly, what kind of system produces men who march calmly towards certain death, not because they crave glory, but because they don't know how to do anything else? That's what we're digging into today. This isn't the movie version of Sparta. It's not the slow-motion battlefield. It's not the motivational quote about shields and brotherhood. It's the machinery behind the myth. And here on Hidden Secret Tales, that's what we do. We look past the legend and ask uncomfortable questions. If you care about the real story behind the headlines of history, take a second to subscribe. Liking the video and dropping your thoughts in the comments genuinely helps us keep exploring the parts of the past that don't fit neatly into Hollywood scripts. Now, to understand Leonidas, you have to understand the ground Sparta stood on. Sometime in the 8th century BC, Sparta conquered its neighbor, Messenia. They didn't wipe the Messenians out. They did something more useful. They enslaved them. The people of Messenia became the helots, state-owned laborers tied to the land. They farmed the grain, harvested olives, raised livestock, produced the food that fed every Spartan household. Sparta didn't farm. Sparta trained. And here's the part that shaped everything. The helots vastly outnumbered their Spartan masters. Ancient estimates vary. Some say 7 helots for every Spartan citizen. Some say more. The exact ratio is debated. The imbalance is not. Imagine running a society where your entire food supply depends on a population that has every reason to hate you. Every meal in Sparta came with a silent calculation. What happens if they rise up? Because they tried. In the 7th century BC, the Messenians revolted. The war was long, bloody, desperate. Sparta nearly broke. Ancient writers describe it as a fight for survival, not against a foreign empire, but against the people working their own fields. Sparta survived. But survival came at a cost. After that revolt, the Spartan state reorganized itself around one single priority: control. Everything that followed, the laws, the rituals, the training, the brutality, all trace back to one question. How do a few thousand citizens permanently dominate a population that could crush them overnight? The answer wasn't walls. Sparta famously had none. The answer was total militarization of its own people. At 7 years old, Spartan boys left their families. Not voluntarily, not occasionally. Every citizen's son entered the agoge, the state-run training system that would shape the next 13 years of his life. They weren't called classes. They were called herds. The boys were grouped together, stripped of individuality, and issued one cloak per year. No shoes, no soft beds. They slept on reeds pulled from riverbanks with their bare hands. Food was rationed deliberately below comfort. Hunger was policy. The boys were expected to steal to survive. If they succeeded without getting caught, nothing happened. If they were caught, they were beaten, not for stealing, for failing. The lesson was simple. Survival is allowed. Failure is not. One famous story, recorded by Plutarch, tells of a boy who stole a fox cub and hid it under his cloak. When confronted by an adult, the boy stood rigid. The fox clawed and bit into his stomach. He said nothing. He did not cry out. He died standing, torn open, rather than admit what he'd done. Whether the story is literal or symbolic doesn't matter. Spartans told it as an ideal. Pain was not something to avoid. It was something to master. As the boys grew older, the violence intensified. They were encouraged to fight each other. No rules, no supervision, just fists, teeth, endurance. At the altar of Artemis Orthia, boys were publicly whipped as a religious ritual. Spectators watched. Some boys died under the lash. Silence was victory. Endurance was identity. By 18, a Spartan male had spent over a decade being reshaped by the state. Not educated in philosophy, not encouraged to question, conditioned. He learned to hold formation in a phalanx without flinching, to stand shoulder to shoulder under summer heat, armored in bronze, while the man next to him fell screaming. This was the environment that shaped Leonidas. He entered at 7. He emerged as a man who had never experienced autonomous choice. The state had already chosen for him. There's a piece of Spartan life rarely shown in popular culture. It was called the Cryptaia. Each year, selected young men, the most capable graduates of the agoge, were sent into Helot territory alone, armed with a dagger. No armor, no supplies. Their mission was simple: kill. They moved at night, targeting helots who appeared strong, confident, influential. Any sign of leadership was a threat. The goal wasn't punishment, it was prevention. Sparta's ephors formally declared war on the helots every year. This legal maneuver removed religious guilt from killing them. Imagine that. An annual declaration of war, not against a foreign enemy, but against your own labor force. Thucydides records a chilling event during the Peloponnesian War. The Spartans announced that helots who had served bravely would be honored. Around 2,000 men came forward. They were crowned, paraded, then they vanished. No official explanation. Competence in a subjugated population was dangerous. The Cryptaia ensured that danger never organized itself. The same boys who trained in discipline and formation were also trained in silent elimination. This was the moral environment behind the legend. Not just warriors defending freedom, but citizens conditioned to maintain internal control. It's often said that Spartan women had more freedom than women elsewhere in Greece. That's partly true. They could own property, inherit land, move publicly without the restrictions seen in Athens. They exercised and trained physically, running, wrestling, throwing javelins. But context matters. The goal wasn't equality. The goal was reproduction. Sparta believed strong mothers produced strong sons. Marriage rituals reflected this mindset. Brides had their heads shaved and wore men's cloaks. Husbands, who lived in communal barracks until age 30, visited in secret at night. Some men fathered children before ever seeing their wives in daylight. If a couple failed to produce children, arrangements could be made. An older husband might introduce a younger man to his wife to ensure conception. This wasn't scandal. It was policy. The state treated reproduction the way it treated military training, as infrastructure. When Leonidas selected his famous 300, he chose men who had living sons. That wasn't romance. It was mathematics. Their heirs were secured. The demographic loss was manageable. Even sacrifice was calculated. In 480 BC, King Xerxes of Persia launched an invasion of Greece. His father, Darius, had previously been defeated at Marathon. Xerxes intended to erase that humiliation. Ancient sources claim over 1 million troops. Modern historians suggest somewhere between 100,000 and 300,000. Still overwhelming. The Greek city-states knew the invasion was coming. They debated strategy. Timing was complicated by religious festivals, including the Spartan Carnea, during which full military mobilization was forbidden. So Sparta sent 300, not because 300 was enough, but because religious law limited what they could deploy. Leonidas didn't march alone. Around 7,000 Greek soldiers joined him from various city-states: Thespians, Corinthians, Arcadians, and others. Thermopylae was chosen for geography, not poetry. A narrow coastal pass between mountain and sea. At its tightest point, only a few men could stand abreast. Persian numbers would be neutralized. For 2 days, the strategy worked. Wave after wave of Persian soldiers crashed into the Greek line. Even the elite immortals failed to break through. Then came Ephialtes, a local man who revealed a mountain path, the Oenopeia Trail, that allowed Persian forces to outflank the defenders. By dawn of the 3rd day, the Greeks were surrounded. Leonidas dismissed most of the allied forces. Herodotus gives 2 versions. Either he ordered them to leave to save their lives, or they withdrew on their own. What remained were roughly 1,500 men. The 300 Spartans, 700 Thespians who refused to retreat, and several hundred Thebans. The Thespians are often forgotten. They weren't professional soldiers. They chose to stay. With encirclement inevitable, Leonidas moved his forces into a wider area of the pass. No more bottleneck advantage, just open confrontation. The fighting turned savage. Spears shattered. Swords broke. Men grappled hand to hand. Herodotus records that 2 of Xerxes' brothers were killed. Leonidas fell during this phase. His body became the center of the struggle. Greeks and Persians clashed repeatedly over it. To lose a king's corpse was dishonor. Eventually, the survivors retreated to a small hill. The Persians didn't rush in. They stood back and used arrows, javelins, and stones. The remaining Spartans and Thespians were killed at range, methodically. Afterward, Xerxes ordered Leonidas' head cut off and his body displayed. An act unusual by Persian standards, perhaps reflecting anger at the unexpected resistance. Decades later, Sparta retrieved his remains and built a hero shrine. At Thermopylae, an epitaph was carved. "Go tell the Spartans, stranger passing by, that here, obedient to their laws, we lie. Not freedom, not glory, obedience." Sparta eventually defeated Athens in the Peloponnesian War and became dominant in Greece. But its citizen population kept shrinking. Land concentrated in fewer hands. Full citizenship required wealth and status. The military machine became harder to sustain. In 371 BC, at the Battle of Plataea, the Theban general Epaminondas shattered Spartan dominance. Then he marched into Messenia and freed the Helots. The foundation of Sparta, the labor force that fed the military elite, was gone. Without Helots, there was no surplus. Without surplus, no full-time warrior class. Without that class, no Spartan system. Sparta never recovered. When we share quotes about Spartan courage, when we watch stylized slow-motion battles, when we celebrate the 300, we're looking at the output of a machine that took 7-year-old boys and removed hesitation, a machine that declared annual war on its own workers, a machine that turned reproduction into policy and death into logistics. Leonidas stood at Thermopylae because for 30 years the state had made any other option unimaginable. The Spartans didn't retreat because retreat had been engineered out of them before they could write their names. And the 700 Thespians, the volunteers history rarely mentions, remind us that there's a difference between sacrifice chosen and sacrifice programmed. Thermopylae is still told as a story of freedom, but the men who died there were among the least free in Greece. And maybe that's the part we're still trying to figure out. What exactly are we applauding? Courage? Obedience? Or a system so powerful it could convince its own citizens that walking into certain death was the highest expression of honor? That question lingers longer than any battlefield echo. And it's why the legend of Sparta casts such a long, complicated shadow.